the early hours of March 18th, 1945. The Ligurian Sea lies still, the impenetrable darkness of the skies cloaking the tense drama unfolding on the surface. Two German warships, torpedo boat TA-24 and destroyer TA-32, slice through the turbulent Mediterranean waters, their engines straining as they race toward the safety of Genoa. Behind them, an unseen predator lurks closer and closer, trailing like a shadow that refuses to fade in the dark. The sailors glance back, hearts pounding. No sign of their sister ship. They know it's gone. If they don't outrun their hunter, they'll share her fate. Their destruction will signal the end of Germany's ability to conduct deep-water operations in the Mediterranean, snuffing out the last flicker of Kriegsmarine resistance. As the coastline of Italy creeps closer, hope rises among the German crews. They might just make it. But then, without warning, a thunderous crash shakes TA-24, throwing sailors to the deck. Panic spreads. They've been hit. By early 1945, the Allies were preparing for the final push to bring about the collapse of Nazi Germany. In late January, President Franklin D. Roosevelt and Prime Minister Winston Churchill convened on the island of Malta with other Allied leaders and top military strategists. Their goal was to plan the war's final phases and coordinate the decisive blows that would destroy German resistance. One of the most critical decisions made at the Malta Conference was to redeploy forces from the Italian front to northwestern Europe. After 2 long years of brutal fighting in Italy, the 1st Canadian Corps and the British 5th Infantry Division were to be transferred to bolster the Allied front lines for the decisive thrust into Germany. This massive redeployment, known as Operation Goldflake, would be essential to the final stand against the crumbling Nazi defenses. The operation presented enormous logistical challenges. Thousands of troops, along with tanks, wheeled vehicles, and carriers, needed to be transported from the ports of Naples and Leghorn in Italy to Marseille in southern France without alerting German forces. Daily, 3,700 personnel, 40 tanks, 650 vehicles, and 50 carriers would embark from the Italian ports, making operational secrecy crucial. To protect the mission, the Allies implemented Operation Penknife, a carefully crafted deception campaign designed to mislead the Germans. Decoy units were sent driving through Italian towns, false location signs were posted, and wire operators transmitted fake messages to maintain the illusion that Canadian troops were still holding their positions on the Italian front. The deception was so effective that even after most of the Canadian forces were already in France, captured German intelligence indicated that they still believed the Canadians were stationed in Italy. The stakes were high, with a large volume of men and equipment moving daily across the Mediterranean. Ensuring that shipping routes remained uninterrupted was critical. Allied convoys were vulnerable to both air and naval attacks while in transit, and the Germans, desperate to disrupt any potential troop movement, launched several offensives in the region. They sought to prevent the buildup of Allied forces in France, knowing that once these troops were in position, the end of the war would only be a matter of time. On the night of March 17th, 1945, the last 3 operational ships of the German 10th Flotilla slipped quietly out of the port of Genoa under cover of darkness. Their mission was dangerous, to lay mines near the French island of Corsica. The same flotilla had narrowly avoided disaster just months earlier, after a near encounter with the American destroyer USS Gleaves during a similar mission. That time, they barely escaped unscathed, slipping back into Genoa with luck on their side. The flotilla consisted of 2 Ariete-class torpedo boats, TA-24 and TA-29, and the destroyer TA-32. These ships, originally part of the Italian Navy, had been captured and repurposed by the Kriegsmarine after Italy's surrender in September of 1943. TA-24 and TA-29, formerly known as Arturo and Eridano, were large destroyer escorts with enhanced torpedo capabilities. Each carried 6 450mm torpedo launchers, bolstered by a robust anti-aircraft defense of 10 20mm cannons, making them optimal for both offensive and escort operations. Their size and firepower made them some of the largest ships seized by the Germans, and they were critical assets in the Kriegsmarine's dwindling fleet. TA-32, leader of the flotilla, had been built in the early 1930s for the Royal Yugoslav Navy under the name Dubrovnik. This destroyer had once been among the most powerful of its kind. Armed with 4 140mm Skoda guns and designed for high-speed operations, Dubrovnik was initially used for ceremonial missions, including transporting King Alexander of Yugoslavia to France. It later became the flagship of the Yugoslav Navy's 1st Torpedo Division. However, during the German-led invasion of Yugoslavia, the ship was captured by the Italians and renamed Premuda. In Italian service, it participated in several significant naval operations, including the defense against the Allied Operation Harpoon convoy in June 1942. Following Italy's surrender, the Germans seized the ship and renamed it TA-32. Repurposed as a torpedo boat, it was assigned to the Ligurian Sea, carrying out scouting, attack, and mine-laying operations. Despite its aging design, TA-32 remained a valuable asset in Germany's desperate struggle to maintain control over strategic waters in the Mediterranean. The 3 ships executed their mission with precision. TA-24 and TA-29 laid 56 mines south of Gorgona Island, while TA-32 deployed 76 mines off Cap Corsa, hoping to disrupt Allied shipping routes. With the mines planted, the flotilla turned north, steering for Genoa's safety. However, their luck was about to run out. As they made their way back toward the Italian coast, the German flotilla was detected by an Allied shore radar station at Livorno. In the early hours of March 18th, 4 Allied destroyers from the 3rd Destroyer Flotilla were patrolling the waters near Corsica when they were alerted to the presence of German ships in the area. The Allied squadron was a combined force. The French destroyers Basque, a Ledroit-class vessel, and Tempête of the Borrasque class, accompanied by the British destroyers HMS Lookout and HMS Meteor. The sighting of the German fleet was cause for alarm. An Allied convoy was moving near Cape Corsa, and the Germans would pose a serious threat to it. Captain André Leon Jean-Marie Morizani, the senior officer aboard Tempête, quickly assessed the situation. Knowing the French destroyers were older and slower, he ordered them to stay back and protect the convoy. Meanwhile, the British ships Lookout and Meteor were tasked with intercepting the German flotilla before it could close in on the Allied convoy. Lookout Commander Derek Hetherington coordinated with Meteor as both British destroyers split off and raced toward the suspected location of the enemy, pushing northeast at full speed. At 3 a.m., Lookout's radar picked up the German vessels, slicing through the blackness of the Ligurian Sea as she sped forward at 20 knots. The L-class destroyer was no stranger to combat. Lookout had proven her worth in the most critical moments of the war, from supporting convoys countering the German battleship Tirpitz to playing a vital role in major operations like the invasion of Madagascar and Operation Retribution, where she had helped capture fleeing Axis forces in North Africa. With extreme precision, Lookout charged toward the enemy. At just 5,000 yards from the German formation, she opened fire. Shells cut through the night sky, lighting up the horizon with fiery bursts. Within moments, she swung alongside the German formation, unleashing her torpedoes in a blistering attack. The German ships, disoriented in the darkness, were caught completely off guard, scrambling to react to the sudden assault. Upon striking TA-24 and TA-29, the German flotilla scattered, scrambling to retreat north in disarray. But HMS Lookout wasn't about to let her prey escape so easily. With her radar locked on the more heavily damaged TA-29, Lookout bore down at full speed, her 6 4.7-inch guns thundering as she closed the gap to 2,000 yards. TA-29 fought back, firing desperately, her shells whistling past Lookout in dangerously close misses. But the British destroyer pressed the attack with relentless determination. Even after taking a hit from 20mm cannon strikes, which ignited a small fire on deck, her crew quickly extinguished the flames, allowing Lookout to keep up the pressure. For over an hour, Lookout pummeled the German torpedo boat with more than 40 direct hits, tearing into its hull and superstructure. By 4 a.m., TA-29, now engulfed in flames, gave in, sinking beneath the waves, taking 20 German crew members along with her. While Lookout dispatched TA-29, HMS Meteor was already in pursuit of the 2 fleeing German ships. with TA-24 and TA-32 set on her radar, Meteor surged ahead. As she closed the gap, the German craft sped through the dark waters, hoping to evade Meteor's strike. But the British crew worked with devastating accuracy as they launched a barrage of gunfire from 8,000 yards. Shells slammed into TA-24, tearing into her hull and causing chaos on deck. On the bridge of Meteor, Lieutenant Commander Richard Pankhurst witnessed TA-24 erupt. The inferno burned bright against the night sky, leaving no place to hide. Knowing the end of the fight was within reach, Pankhurst wasted no time, ordering a torpedo strike to follow the initial hit on the German vessel. The crew on board TA-24 scrambled under the roar of battle, rushing to find their counterattack positions. But the relentless fire of Meteor wouldn't give the sailors a chance to fight back. Moments later, one of the torpedoes found its mark, and within just 13 minutes, TA-24 was gone, swallowed by the sea. TA-32 barely managed to escape, slipping away under the cover of darkness. It would become the only vessel to return to Genoa, and the last operational ship of the German 10th Flotilla. However, its survival would be short-lived. Just a month later, with Allied forces closing in and Italy liberated from German control, the crew of TA-32 scuttled the ship in the harbor of Genoa, ensuring it would never fall into enemy hands. The vessel's fate marked the final chapter of the Kriegsmarine's presence in the Mediterranean. By the time the sun rose, only shattered remnants of TA-24 and TA-29 lay above the surface. The surviving crew members, that was fortunate enough to escape before the ship sank, were rescued and taken prisoner by the British sailors. This battle wasn't just a tactical victory, it was the definitive end of an era. As historian Spencer Tucker stated, quote, "The British destroyers achieved decisive results, ending the Kriegsmarine's ability to mount any deep-water offensive operations. The once dominant German naval force was silenced, ensuring an Allied path to victory." Upon returning to their motherland, commanders of HMS Lookout and HMS Meteor were honored for their actions. Commander Derek Hetherington of Lookout received a second bar to the Distinguished Service Cross, while King George VI awarded the Distinguished Service Cross to Commander Richard Pankhurst of Meteor. After the battle, HMS Lookout continued escort and bombardment missions off the coast of Italy until the war's end. She became one of only 2 L-class destroyers to survive the conflict. Placed in reserve after the war, Lookout was eventually scrapped in 1948. As for HMS Meteor, the ship remained in service for over a decade. In 1959, and renamed Payala Pasha after receiving upgrades, including the installation of Squid anti-submarine weapons. She faithfully served under the Turkish flag until her eventual decommissioning. To this day, these 2 destroyers are still remembered as the vessels that brought down the last German ships of the war, dealing a final blow to the Kriegsmarine and ushering in a new era of peace at sea.